All right, everyone, welcome back into another live edition of the Patriots Beat podcast here on the CLNS Media Network, presented by our wonderful friends over at Prize Picks and Game Time. It's Brian Hines back as always with Alex Barth. Unfortunately, no Tayler today. I know he was supposed to be on, but he's having some technical difficulties with his lights or whatever, so he couldn't join us today. But it's me and Barth back. Day 15 of Patriots training camp. They were back to work today on a Saturday. 90-minute session, kind of lower tempoed, right? No pads.
Yeah.
It was a lighter Saturday 90-minute session, but not too much to talk about. But there were two kind of notable things. Then we can get into some other notes. And the first was Drake Maye. We all wanted to get out there and see if he would be repping with the starters after the preseason debut. That was impressive, but I would say it was Jacoby Brissett most of the day. And then the last period, it was this kind of jog through 2-minute drill, even though there was 3 minutes on the clock because they were, doing the jog through reps. And May got under center, and it was David Andrews, and David Andrews was snapping to him with the starting offensive line for the first time this summer. So he got some starting reps there, but again, it was in that late session jog through. The offenses were split onto two fields, so the backup line was on the other field. But are you reading into that at all, that maybe they're starting to set the stage here for this to really be a competition? Because, again, it hasn't been a competition this summer, even though they've kind of been saying it is a competition.
Yes and no. I know I'm going to kind of be the guy that pours smoke on the fire. I'm going to be the wet blanket, or not smoke on the fire.
Everything, too, because the offensive line, which we'll get to, you're going to...
Right. I'm going to be the wet blanket. I'm going to play Evan Lazar on this episode. So it doesn't mean nothing. Let me start off with that. Doesn't mean nothing, but it was one period at the very end of practice that was held at a jog through pace. The other thing, and this factors into some of the offensive line moves too, I know under Bill Belichick, once a year, usually in the spring, sometimes in the summer, or a couple times a year, they would do a period of practice that was basically just, they would run plays, and every snap they would put a backup or two on the field. And the idea was basically, hey, just in case these guys have to play together, let's make sure they've never not been out there together before, right? Let's just get them a couple of snaps. So today kind of had the vibe of that to me. Now, because of the timing coming off that preseason game when Drake Maye looked good, is it possible it's a little more? Yes. It's definitely something to watch for tomorrow. If we see it tomorrow, it's very real. I'm still not convinced today was a sign that suddenly the tide is turning and suddenly it's going to be a lot more Drake Maye. Because frankly, if we were going to see a lot more Drake Maye, we would have seen a lot more Drake Maye. It was one drive at the end of practice. Jacoby Brissett handled the vast majority of it. It would not surprise me if we go out there tomorrow and there's nobody, like there's no snaps for Drake Maye with the ones. But it also, maybe this is the start of the buildup. Maybe this is the start of the build to him repping more, even if it is just one or two drives at the end of practice. What I would say on that is, if he's only getting one or two drives at the end of practice, each practice between now and when practice closes next week, not enough for him to start week one. It's just not enough time.
Yep. So they did 6 periods. I was adding it up quick. 6 periods of 11 on 11s today, and Jacoby led off all of them. And then the first 5, Maye went back in then with the backup offensive line. So it still was Jacoby, but maybe this is like he hasn't taken a snap from David Andrews this summer, and you imagine he's going to start at some point. So let's start to get that taken care of and get them familiar with each other. But also, I think you said when it was Mac versus Cam, Cam would lead off and then they would go to Mac, right? And still try to get Cam ready, but then it would go to Mac. So maybe that's what's going to happen here is they still, Brissett leads off and then Maye comes in to kind of clean up duty. So maybe they're kind of setting the page for that. But I also wouldn't be surprised if it was just a late jog through period at the end of a late Saturday practice, and then we just don't see any Drake Maye repping with the starters going forward tomorrow or any of these other days. So it was noteworthy. It was interesting just because, again, it's the first time he's done it this summer, but tough to get a clear picture on what's going on there. We'll need more evidence over these next few days of practice. So, but how'd you think he looked? I thought he looked good. Again,
yeah, I thought he had a good day.
He wasn't fully padded, but
Right. I mean, it comes with that caveat, but we finally got to see him throw the ball down the field a little bit. Had a
Kevin
wheel.
Harris.
Kevin Harris, and then he hit KJ Osborne on a corner, but we got to see him open up a little bit. He was throwing the ball well for what that's worth, but it's not going to matter. None of the who he's repping with, how he's throwing the ball. At this point in the summer, it doesn't matter if it's not in pads.
Yep. But yeah, I thought it was just more of the same with their performance. And again, not padded practice, but May looked good. Jacoby had a few accuracy issues. And then again, we did get to see May kind of push it downfield, throw in the bucket to Kevin Harris, tight coverage by Christian Ellis. And then the corner to Osborne were probably his two best throws in both downfield. Yeah. So good to see that. But yeah, just kind of more of the same with performance wise in that quarterback room. But the big thing just going forward is what's the snaps going to look like? And is that really a sign that last period today that they're going to make an adjustment there? And really make this a competition, because again, it hasn't been a competition up to this point. So we will continue to see there. But before we get to the offensive line, because that was the other big main kind of takeaway today, very quick break. We'll hear from our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members, and it's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports, because unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers as you pick just more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. And Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off, which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. And I know we're all excited to see Drake Maye eventually, but another rookie quarterback is going to start week 1 out in Chicago, and one Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on Prize Picks every week in September. That's right. Only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football season or weekend in September. So that's 4 weeks of free W's. Don't miss this deal on Prize Picks, because it's gone when September ends. Great song. Shout out Green Day. But download Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, offensive line was the other big thing that caught everyone's eye down there today. Yep. It was the same starting 5, so still Vidarian Lowe at left tackle, Chuks Okorafor at right tackle, and then the interior 3, City So, David Andrews, Mike Onwenu. But after that, it was a mess. They were rotating guys in and out. First unit, second unit, you had Mike Onwenu kicking outside to tackle, Chuks Okorafor back at left tackle at times. The rookies, Layden Robinson and Caden Wallace, up with the first quote unquote unit at left guard and right tackle. So there was a lot of mixing and matching. There was a lot of rotating. Are you thinking this might be something they're experimenting with and still trying to find this best 5, or would you like to throw more cold water on this and just say what Mike Onwenu said after practice was we were missing a few guys. Calvin Anderson and Nick Leverett weren't out there. So we were missing a few guys. So we were just practicing, backup contingency, worst possible situations, and getting guys in different spots there.
I think it is, just because if they were actually going to try somebody else, 1, you got to do it in padded practices again. And 2, you actually would have to give one of the groups a look to evaluate whether or not it worked, right?
Every 2 plays, they were spinning them in and out of there.
So now maybe they just wanted to get guys reps in different spots as much as possible to get them ready for this week. And maybe we get extended looks at some of those groups this week. So again, I'm not saying it's no, but this was hardly, hey, they're changing the offensive line, guaranteed, lock it in. That's not exactly what it was. We did see some interesting groupings. We also found out after practice from Mike Onwenu, he's playing at 350 pounds, which is perfectly fine if you're a guard. Really tough to be a 350-pound tackle in this offense. So that kind of paints the picture of it a little more, even as Onwenu moved out to right tackle for 2 or 3 snaps in this period. It does sort of tell us here's what I think we learned. If and when they decide to change the offensive line, which maybe it is tomorrow. Maybe they were just, all right, we're going to try a couple different groups tomorrow, but we're only doing 90-minute practice today, so we're just going to get you the reps so we can get you them. Maybe I think what we saw is what the potential changes look like. So there's, still open to moving Chuks Okorafor left or right. They're still comfortable with him playing either. They're the guys they put in, right? The guys that rotated in were Caden Wallace, Layden Robinson, the rookies, and Michael Jordan. No Antonio Mafi. Nick Leverett was hurt, so you don't know how he factors in there, but they were giving these other guys chances. But no Antonio Mafi, who's a recent draft pick, who, we didn't know where he was at. No Liam Fornadell, who I know some people like. Just it seems like Michael Jordan and the rookies are the guys who are going to be a part of this thing if it moves around.
Yep. Fornadell was like the strict backup center.
Yeah,
so
he played later, but
he was in that group. One thing we didn't see was Caden Wallace at left tackle at all. So I wonder if they're kind of off that experiment completely. Right? You mentioned those contingency plans. He wasn't. He was strictly at right tackle when he was out there. But yeah, I think it kind of was just contingency plans, because once they got into like live 11 periods, like it was the starting five, right? Like it was Vidarian Lowe, City So, David Andrews, Michael Onwenu, and Chuks Okorafor. So I still think that's the five. I would be surprised still if they change it, but maybe they are, I don't know, just kind of coming up with some backup plans just in case they do need to change that. But yeah, anything else on the offensive line there?
To your point, it just, I think, solidifies the fact that it was just that one period, and when it was late, they were using the same group. I'm not getting too excited about it. It's notable, like you make note of it, and it's okay. Is this how the change starts? I think that's a fair question, but I don't think it's. I wouldn't be surprised if we go back out tomorrow and it's Vidarian Lowe at left and Chuks Okorafor at right, and that's the line for all of practice. That wouldn't surprise me.
Yep. So those were the big two things from practice.
Yeah.
Again, it was a lower key session, but those were the big two highlights. Just some other things I had. Austin Hooper went down, looked like a left leg injury of some sort. Well, he technically didn't go down. He went to the athletic training shed and then he left early. So tight end's been a spot. We've talked a lot about that third tight end spot. Now they're down their top two tight ends. I know the Gerard Mayo said the Hunter Henry injury isn't long term, but he's still out. And now Austin Hooper, who's been one of Jacoby Brissett's like favorite targets, one of his most consistent targets, now he's out. So that it was Mitchell Wilcox up. Well, Michael Petway was behind him when they kind of used those two tight end sets. So that tight end position getting a little scary right now with the depth and the talent there. I know, like, even on your roster projection, you were thinking of going with a veteran TBD, and now they're down their top two guys now, it seems.
Yeah, it's they're going to have to. It goes back to point. I think there's going to be somebody else added there. I think they're going to add somebody else at some point, because you still just haven't seen it from Wilcox or Petway or any of these guys that they're worth a roster spot. We've mentioned. I don't even know if we've mentioned him on the air. I've mentioned it in text. Peyton Hendershot from Dallas. Okay, who I know some Dallas people think won't make that team. Who knows? Like, Pharaoh Brown was not remotely on my radar last year at this time, and he ended up being a decent player. So you really get through from our point of view. And I don't know if you want to talk about it, Brian, too. I know Jahan Dotson, there's a report out there that he may not make the team in Washington, and some people are talking about him. Just the way it works for us, you're so locked in on the team you cover that you're not necessarily looking around the rest of the league and seeing what the situations are. You kind of, it becomes a fire drill after that final preseason game when you start working on, the roster projection and looking around where you want to add guys, that you sort of do that research. So I can't say I'm super familiar with the tight end landscape. That kind of comes in a week. Let's get through the Patriots situation first, but it's going to be something to look up. If other people want to look it up, yeah. Zach Kuntz, big fan of his a couple years ago. Sure. Why not?
He's Jets, right?
Yeah, I think so. Although they may not want a guy with the injury history he has, because if your top two guys are banged up, you may want somebody that you're a little more sure is going to be out there.
Yeah.
But I typed in Jets instead of Zach Kuntz to see if he was on the Jets. Hang on. Yes, he is still on the Jets. So, we'll see what happens there. But I think tight end and tackle are the two spots you're going to be looking externally.
Yep. I was trying to pull up the Jets depth chart. He is... Oh, they have Patriots legend Anthony Firkser. They have
Patriots and Harvard legend Anthony Firkser.
There you go. They have 7 tight ends. So, yeah, maybe Zach Kuntz, but we'll see. Someone also asked, when is roster cutdown day? It's August 27th, I believe, and then it's like the 4 p.m. deadline. So 10 days from that now. Anyone, I know we just said any teams are tough to look around, but I would say in general, like the tackle, I don't know if I mentioned Darian Kennard on here, but he was a Philly guy who he was a tackle at Kentucky, played a little guard and when he first got to the NFL. Now he's in Philly. He's kicked back out to right tackle. I looked at the joint practice. I heard Lane Johnson talking about him, how he was one of the most improved guys in their offensive line room, which is, a talented room. So I looked him up a little bit, looked at some Eagles roster projections, and a lot of them had him on the bubble, and he played, I think, 83 snaps. He went wire to wire in their first preseason game, only gave up one pressure. He only gave up one pressure against New England, playing, 50, 60 snaps. So that's a depth tackle that, I found a name from, and, with the joint practice, that was something Bill would always like to do, take those guys. So the names are tough from other teams, but I would say I wouldn't be surprised if we're sitting at 51 players at a roster cutdown day and add a tight end, add a tackle, look around other places to build the roster out.
They're also on they're third on the waiver wire.
Yeah,
which works. It's the same as your fantasy football waiver wire. You put in a claim on a player, and if you have the top claim, and it doesn't change. So
you're
I think
locked
in
in.
fantasy, right? Once you claim somebody, you go to the bottom.
You drop. Yep.
The NFL's not like that. It's the first 2 or 3 weeks, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, 2 or 3 weeks. It's based off last year's standings. Then it goes to the standings, reverse standings, like the draft order for that week. And it changes every week. But for roster cuts and for the first few weeks of the season, the Patriots are going to have third priority in the waiver wire. They'll just be behind Carolina and Washington. So they like last year, I think there were a couple of guys we found out they put claims in on that they didn't get. They should get most of the guys they put claims on this year. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a few roster claims, waiver claims for them.
Yep. Would Dotson be wavered, or is he a veteran enough where he would just, because if he goes to waivers, he would just have to get past Carolina, right? Because Washington's in the second spot. So
it's less than 4 accrued seasons. So I think he's a waiver player, right? What draft was he?
Ooh, 3 years ago?
22. So 23, 22, 23. Yeah, so he's a waiver player.
Okay. So he would just have to get past Carolina, which Carolina needs receivers probably. So that might be tough. But Dotson's an interesting one there. Any other? Someone said any other?
It's the first 3 weeks. So the Patriots will be third on the waiver wire through the first 3 weeks. And then week 4, wherever they are standings wise, again, they use the same formula for the draft. Might be at the top of the waiver wire. They might be at the bottom of it. They probably won't be, but that would be nice. They'll be up there. Any
other, just Anthony said, positions you might be looking at? I know, tackle again and tight end are probably the big ones now with the injuries, but any other kind of sneaky ones?
Quarterback. If they want that veteran buffer quarterback so they don't have to put Drake Maye in too early if Jacoby Brissett gets hurt and they're going to move on from Bailey Zappi, they're set on moving on from Bailey Zappi. Waiver wire, Matt Corral last year, same thing.
He's back. Minnesota, baby.
Yep.
Matt Corral show.
They got that 2022 mid-round quarterback we all thought they were going to go out and get after JJ McCarthy got hurt. Just not the one we were all thinking.
Not the right one. All right, a few more practice notes, and then we'll wrap up again. Shorter show today for kind of a shorter, lighter practice. But one more quick word from our friends over at Game Time, and then we will wrap this one up. I got to talk to you guys about Game Time, which is the authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, and it makes getting tickets faster and easier because prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guaranteed, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying all your MLB tickets. They have flash deals to save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event, and zone deals to save if you're looking to sit in a specific section. It is baseball season, and the Red Sox are hot, and while they're going on the road for the next week, they'll be back in Fenway against the Yankees, where you can see All-Star Game MVP Jarren Duran as the Red Sox continue to make their playoff push. And if you're in the Boston area, if you're around Fenway, Cask and Flagon, Bleacher Bar, getting a bite to eat, getting a drink, Game Time has last-minute deals where you can save up to 60% off on buying last-minute tickets for sports. So make sure you check the Game Time app right before first pitch to make sure you're not missing any last-minute deals. And you can even get your comedy, theater, or concert tickets on Game Time as well. So take the guesswork out of buying all your MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. All right, just to wrap up, I know we mentioned Calvin Anderson and Nick Leverett weren't out there today. Also, no O'Shane Zannis. He was kind of a new injury, had a sleeve on his left leg, so we just lost Matthew Judon, and Joshua Uche wasn't out there, and now Zannis looks maybe banged up, so the edge depth is taking a hit. What do you think's going on with Uche? That one's weird.
I have no idea what's up with him. He's not practicing, but he's playing late in the preseason game. I have zero idea what to make of that.
Yeah,
it's not good though. Like it worries me because he needs to be working with the top defense and getting used to playing with those guys because he's going to be a big part of that unit.
And he's been kind of unreliable at times, like throughout his career. Like he's dealt with injuries a lot. He's been in and out. So it's been kind of a weird summer for him that he was dealing with something and he was limited, and now he's playing into the third quarter and now he's just not here. Kind of weird, but yeah, not great that you're down really your best three edge rushers, counting Matthew Judon there, with Zannis and Uche not practicing today. Still no Marte Mapu. We haven't seen him since the first day of camp when he was limited. Taki still on PUP, Bourne still on PUP, Strange still on PUP. We saw Taki stretch for the first time today, so maybe he's getting a little closer. And then Sean Wade was still limited. Did get Jonathan Jones and Marcus Jones back, not fully, but seemed like they're kind of ramping up, getting back into the swing of things. So that was good to see. But anything stand out to you on kind of that attendance list today?
I mean, just good to get the corners back. Good to get them back out there. Gerard Mayo had said he didn't, they were close to being back, and those are two guys you need for week one. Along those lines, I thought Alex Austin and Marco Wilson got a ton of quality reps today. So it feels like that last corner spot. I think Austin's on. I think Wilson's on. Obviously, the two Joneses, Gonzalez. That's 5. It really feels like the bubble is Marcellus Dial, Sean Wade, Isaiah Bolden. And maybe one of those guys makes it. Maybe 2 makes it. Maybe 2 make it. I think that's the bubble at the cornerback position right now. They're giving Wilson too many reps for him not make the team. We've talked about how he's the veteran in the room, even though he's only played like 3 years. I think he's on.
Yep. Yeah, he's been out there a lot. So that cornerback room, we've talked so much how competitive that is. So we'll see what happens. But the only other I note then I have is we saw more Jalen Polk today on the offense. Seemed like he was a little bit more involved with that top unit. So that was something we wanted to see, and that was good to see. But I think that's it, unless you got anything else to kind of add or throw in there, or just even looking ahead to tomorrow. I'd imagine back in pads maybe after, a day off yesterday and then a lighter day today. So maybe a fully padded practice there on Sunday, but just any last thoughts?
Yeah, you guys will have to tell me tomorrow. It's going to be you, and if Tayler can get his technology figured out, it's going to be you and Tayler and I think Mike tomorrow, right?
We'll probably be live at Gillette, I'd imagine.
Oh, yeah, you guys will probably do it.
I don't know. Well, Amit's going on vacation. I don't know if Jackson will be down there and able to do that. So
there'll be some show tomorrow with Brian and the Pats Daily guys. I'm on 98.5 from 10 to 2, so I won't be at practice. But I think what you're looking for tomorrow is how many of these, and I would assume it'll be in pads. It's been a brutal camp. I don't see any reason why that changes. And you look at the schedule down the stretch here, 5 practices in the next 6 days. You're looking to see if any of these changes hold. Does the offensive line continue to rotate tomorrow the way it did today? Does Drake Maye get even a drive or 2 with the stars as he did today? Today, to me, felt like a walkthrough getting set for the week ahead, which is usually what these kinds of practices are. That's not that weird. But okay, were they really getting ready for the week, or was that just filling out the practice essentially? That's what you're looking for. The one other thing I'd look for, we didn't really touch on it today because there just wasn't anything about it in practice today, is what's going on with the defensive line. Because They've already lost Barmore. They've lost Judon. We talked about Armin Watts as maybe a guy that would step up. He looks like he's on the outside looking in. Tristan Hill, Jeremiah Farm seem like they have the inside track. To me, like, that is going to be interesting to see how that one plays out. I'm getting, and he wasn't the same caliber of player coming in. I'm getting some Mike Pinnell vibes. No, Mike Pinnell. Who's the one they just signed? Mike Purcell. I'm getting, so not him, Mike Purcell. I'm getting some Mike Pinnell vibes from Armin Watts, where he signed. Everyone's like, hey, look, they got this defensive tackle. He's a good scheme fit. And then he just didn't make the team out of camp. Meanwhile, he's still a decent player. He's like still in the Chiefs, but for whatever reason, that summer it didn't work for him.
Yep.
I think we might be seeing some of that with Armin Watts.
Yep. All right, so we'll keep an eye on all that tomorrow, or I will. Alex won't. He won't be. I'll report back to you and everyone on that with Tayler and Mike. Someone did ask, do we have access this week? We do. Yeah. We'll be at every practice. Just now that they're closed to the public, we can't like live tweet. We have to shoot everything out after practice. That's been a rule even under Bill. So that's how life is now with no crowds there. So and then we'll be back here to break it all down for you. Again, I'll be with Tayler and Mike at some point tomorrow. So make sure you are subscribed to Patriots Press Pass. Turn on your notifications so you do know when we go live. In the meantime, you can follow Alex on Twitter at RealAlexBarth. Head over to 985thesportshub.com to read his work. Listen to him on the radio tomorrow. You said 10 to 2?
Yep, 10 to 2
right.
with Joe Murray.
Sounds good. And then you can follow me on Twitter at I am Brian Hines and head over to patspulpit.com for our Patriots coverage over there as well. So thanks everyone for tuning in with us quickly tonight, and we will see you guys tomorrow.